Welcome to the Scaling Creative Podcast. I'm so excited about this conversation because I love all things social
You're always
media.
excited.
I am always excited.
That's why we're happy here. You're always happy.
But we're going to talk about all things social media going into 2021. So a couple of the main things that I feel like I've seen or we've seen as a little bit of a shift. So let's just dive right in. Oh, I probably should have asked how you guys are doing.
We're doing great.
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Wow. It's really good.
Allison is doing great
So
today.
excited.
It's doing great today. Do you want to just dive right into
Let's
it?
just get right into it.
Okay.
I think, well, first of all, how excited are we to get into 2021? just in general. Can
I'm
we
a
get
little
that out of
worried
here?
it's not going to meet your
Yeah,
expectations.
I don't think
Let's
it's gonna-
not talk about
I think it's
that.
going to be till at least the middle of it, if not later,
I
that
know.
it even is different anyway.
Well, this is actually my
realistically.
thought when it comes to everybody saying, I'm just so ready for 2020 to be over. But is it really going to
No,
be
it's
over?
not gonna
I mean, if you haven't changed your mindset yet,
Mhm.
I think that's the one thing you should focus on before you go into 2021.
Yeah, the calendar's not going to
Yeah.
change.
No.
It's going to be like, oh, finally.
I know.
That's if it was that easy.
Can
Nothing
you
has
imagine if
changed.
the clock changed and it was midnight and it's like, oh,
Suddenly,
everything's better
zero
now.
COVID-19.
Nothing. That's never happened.
Things.
Yeah, lots of hugs all over the place. But no. So the first thing, speaking of relationships and hugging people, that was really
You gotta love it. Hey, that's just people get to see a little bit of the natural Michaela random things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay. So the first thing is this whole concept of social media relationship funnel, which is essentially relationship marketing. And because here's the reality of, I guess always, but as you go into 2021, that relationships are so crucial now more than ever because people are craving that in life and in business are relationships and learning how to genuinely care and build relationships with people online. I don't know about you guys. Have you guys been finding with clients that that's hard for them to create relationships online?
Well, I think I just think they're not good at it because a lot of people are just not good at the fact that you don't always need to sell. And it's easy to build relationships with people when you're just trying to actually build a relationship with people.
Yeah.
But companies look at it like, yeah, we want to just become more present and we want to have more relationships, but all they do is just want to sell to
Sell.
people.
Yeah.
And that's not how you build a relationship.
No, 100%.
And I think that people would always say they want to do that more, but it's just not their natural instinct because they're driven by what numbers and unfortunately the companies make them also be driven by that.
Yes. Yeah.
What has that post done? How good is it done? And that doesn't good relationship that forms over the course of a year with a customer doesn't have a good metric behind it
Right.
until you look at it years later.
That's a really good point.
And I think that's where they get messed up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you said the exact thing that's so important is a lot of people use their social media accounts to sell. And it's so much more than that right now. It's how can you educate? How can you entertain? How can you teach? How can you inspire people? So when you look at what people are sharing too, I always look at the insights of my posts and see okay, what are people sharing? What are people naturally attracted to that I talk about. So, and you can do that in any business of look at what are your people, what are your customers interacting with the most and really give them more of that because you want things to be shareable.
And especially with something like Instagram, where you obviously have the shares, but you also have the saves,
Yes.
which are very important because that's kind of almost like the hidden metric
Yep.
that people aren't putting out, but it's
Yes.
it definitely tells you what they're kind of what they want to remember, which is a really good metric. Not everyone has that. Obviously, Instagram is one of the better in that, where they
Yes.
have other aspects because there's sharing in different platforms. But it's always an interesting metric to look at because that's kind of like the behind the scenes, whether they liked it but they didn't want to show everybody because no one sees their their
Correct.
saved things.
Correct. Yeah.
They only see the other
What do
things.
you save? When you're on Instagram, what are things that you tend to save?
I share a lot of videos that I feel like would either motivate me at some time during a certain thing, or maybe just the idea. For me, it's super random. It could just be like, I loved this idea of this video piece of content. Another could be a quote graphic. Another could be just like a random funny thing. So it's not a specific thing. It's like random probably.
Yeah. But did you notice all three of those things? Nothing had to do with selling
Selling.
of anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that
that's-
comes naturally later. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
if you get the relationship down, the selling is only going to come naturally.
Yeah, because we've talked about that before. But
Yes.
in case people haven't listened to the podcast, we did one maybe feels like almost a year ago, all about social media as well. But the idea of educating and entertaining and all that, that's why people are on social media. The reason TikTok has been so popular for 12 months is because it's unbelievably entertaining. And it's so good at predicting what's entertaining for you. And that's why people go on social media. That's why they go on YouTube, to learn how to do something, to be entertained by a YouTube vlogger, whatever. They don't go there to see the ads.
Right. Yeah.
So and I think people just have to realize that the same reason that you go on social media personally is the same reason other people do. And the same reason that you always hit skip ads is the same reason everyone else does. So it's like, why do you do the things that you know you don't like seeing?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. Why do people do that? I don't.
Because it's easy.
Is it like what we're supposed to?
I think it's definitely what we're supposed to do. I think it also is. It is hard for certain people to understand like how to do anything else, and especially if you're in a big large company. Unfortunately, like we said, they do kind of. I think that's what they've always done. So they don't even know. They don't even allow people to experiment, because when they look at their quarterly numbers, they look at this. They're like, we see you doing all these posts, but like, we're not really seeing any new sales, not realizing how it works. And then someone eventually gets fired because 9 months in, it looks like they're doing nothing but playing around on social media. And then the next person comes in. It's this nonstop like repeat cycle. And I think it's like partially, I think, people not really knowing how to do it well.
Yep.
And then part of them is realizing that even if you really, really knew what you're doing in social media and you go into a big company, you may lose your job before you get the chance to show how powerful what you were doing was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost not fair.
I know.
Like
Yeah.
the small businesses actually are the ones I think have the biggest advantage, because they don't have always the big, huge corporate company looking at every little thing that they're doing and analyzing it. Where if you're like a 5-man shop or something and your main job is that, I think you get more of an advantage because you're not having to go under certain guidelines and certain like restrictions that maybe the company requires you to do.
Yeah.
It
So-
feels more personable that way. Yeah. When it's a big corporation, they don't show you, some of the nit and grit of the everyday. They have it very polished. It's very TV advertisement
Yep.
feel. And that, I feel like consumers are so suspicious of ads. Like,
Yes,
they can pick out when they're being sold to. They can
Always.
pick when it's not
100%.
genuine. So, I mean, you have to adapt to that. You have to adapt to a more personable way of selling,
Right.
which involves a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And I think relationships, when you look at in general how relationships are formed, you have to be intentional. Like the relationships that you have in your life, that you have really good relationships, you're intentional about them. And I think what people make the mistake of is they're not intentional with their like strategic relationship building view of social media. So like, do you have a plan? Because if you don't going into 2021, you're already behind. So do it now. Figure out a plan. Like sit with your team, even if your team is you, just like like I literally have meetings with myself, like planned in my calendar where I plan things out for the month or the quarter. And I look at all these different things, like what are several main things that I do in my business. I have like specific topics that I talk to people on. I have self-image and healing, all these different things. And then I think underneath all of those, how can I entertain people? What are some different ideas for reels that I can do within that? How am I teaching people things about that topic? How am I educating or inspiring, or what's shareable? What's quote, like all those different things. Do you have a plan for building a relationship?
Yep.
Now, selling is also in there for me, but it is not the most important one, and it's like one of 6 different things.
And you have to have
that
a
I do.
plan of how you're going to sell once you have an audience, because that's a tricky thing. Every time you put something out there for sale, you lose a little bit of the
Yes.
audience excitement,
Yes.
which it's unfortunate because
Yeah.
like people have to also live.
Yeah.
But that's what happens.
And how can you integrate it too? You know, even just with maybe some of the things that you're doing when you're teaching, you can even say, I teach this like with a client of mine,
Right.
or give an example, give a little testimonial that's like, you know, put into some of your teaching or whatever it might be. So you can find ways to sell in a more organic way. But a lot of times you have to be intentional about it. So just think about it like any relationship that you have.
And I think, too, it's important, like you like planning, you like those kind of things. I also think it's important for some people to not overthink what their like year game plan is.
Yeah.
Because people also can get overwhelmed with feeling like I just need to start and now I need to come up with a plan. Like some of it just comes.
Yes.
And you just have to learn. And every time you post, you learn. And certain times you're going to post and you're not going to look at metrics at all. Like just try things out. And a big part of learning social media is actually just consuming content in the platforms to understand what's working.
Yep.
If you see something in a platform that has millions and millions of views and they've showed it to you, analyze it rather than your own content.
Yeah.
Why am I still watching this? Why have 5 million people liked this? Why, like there's a reason. Most of the times you'll see it's entertainment on TikTok.
Yep.
But on Instagram it may be something that's very valuable from an education standpoint with a fitness person or whatever. But analyze why they're doing well.
Yep.
Instead of just being like, I don't like that or I don't like this. Well, a lot of people did.
Yep.
So because that tells what the market, the market is the ones that decides obviously what's good and what's not. And if you can pay attention to what's doing well and then capitalize in your own way, how can you do that for your brand?
Yeah.
Because TikTok's one of the best examples. We'll probably talk about it, but of like jumping on trends that are working already with sounds and with music and just making it your own people and your own thing. All these dumb dances and all the things. It's the easiest one to actually make your own content in if you really want to, because you just can kind of just jump on everything you see working and just make it your own.
Yeah.
And you probably have a chance of getting people to see it.
Yep. Even when I first, like the Reels thing came out, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like that was my thought. I don't want to do this. But then I just started consuming a little bit, not overly. I usually set a timer for myself because I hate going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I set a timer and I just consumed people's Reels. And the cool thing about Reels is you can actually tap the song.
And Reels, for those watching, in case we went too far already, Reels are like Instagram's newer TikTok version of, there's a million crossover things, but Reels are like not stories, they're not posts, they're the new Reels, the TikTok-y Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, continue, just in case people had no clue.
Whenever a platform introduces something new like that, jump on it because they're pushing that forward. So that's why Reels, like every reel I posted is over 5,000 views. That's the dumbest thing ever. But it's the reality of it because they're pushing it because they want it to be successful. So jump on things early because that makes you smart. But when I first started consuming, I was getting inspired by other people's things. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I could change that into dating things or single, you know what I mean? Like, so like you said, go on there, consume things. If you're entertained by it, how can you just adapt it to your business? You know? So I see a lot of videographers, photographers on like hardcore reels, just showing lenses or whatever it might be, you know? So just take your concept for your business, change it up a little bit. And one thing too that I wanted to add for this is tell people what you want them to do. So if it's something like, hey, this is a great thing to save, literally people will start saving it because you're telling them what to do. Some people don't even know you can save things. So
don't assume. It's always better just to let it out there.
Yeah. Or like double tap this if you love this, or, you know, like tell people what to do. There's one guy, and his name literally Trent Shelton. Do you know who he is? Okay. Well, he's got like millions of followers, but that's what he does. Like he literally tells people what to do in his comment. Share this if this touched your heart. And then I do it for some reason. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, share.
All right,
but that's how people are. They will follow, but are you telling them what to do? Because they will follow, but you just have to tell them first. So anything else you guys want to add about like relationship marketing? Because I did think this is why video is so important. Because tell us, like, why do you think videos and seeing people's faces help build relationships
I
naturally.
think it's just, it brings a personal touch. I mean,
Yes.
video, obviously, no question, does something that photos and text on a post don't do. I mean, it's just, it allows you to really see and connect with people, and especially employees, and it builds internal culture in a big way by
Yep.
putting people on your social media.
Yes.
It also just helps people to understand, like, look at who's in the company. It just brings a nice personal, I mean, when you see someone's face, when you see smiles, when you see whatever, it's a different connection that you have
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah.
It humanizes the brand.
Exactly.
And I think some companies, we've even found with certain clients, like, they don't want to put employees on there because they're afraid, what if the employee doesn't go anywhere? And like, I think that's silly
Yeah.
because people are going to come and go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But featuring your people and allowing them to be a part of something is like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if they're still on the social media when they leave either, because realistically, if you're a good enough leader and you're a good enough company in general, when a person leaves your place, they should be okay that they're still on your social media because they still have a relationship with you.
Yeah. 100%.
If you're a place that is, entirely fake on all your social media and you make people say things that you don't believe in, and then I could see that you might be a little hesitant to keep things on. But if it's authentic stuff, no one should care.
Yeah. 100%. And if it's a personal brand, you really need to make sure
Oh, yeah.
your face is all over that. And one of the things too, like I love stories, and most people, they consume a lot of stories more so than feed. And like, I think the stories is a really good relationship building avenue on Instagram or video, like on LinkedIn or whatever, wherever it is, like your face is really valuable. But a lot of people, make their face smaller in the stories, like for artistic wise. But I've actually heard that you get way less engagement that way. People want to feel like they're on FaceTime with you.
Oh,
So
it's more realistic.
Yeah,
that
it's
way.
more realistic. So just like keep it full on, like, and just put your face in there, because it's important. And that's why I think video is like such a crucial piece that a lot of people are missing, especially on LinkedIn personally, I think.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, I don't know if we'll go into this more, but it's one of the things that hopefully we'll talk about going into 2021 is that social media definitely changes nonstop all the time, and you have to be okay with the fact that it is.
Yep.
Early in the year, I don't remember what month, we did one all about LinkedIn and all about how the organic reach was unbelievable. And it's changed a lot. The organic reach is not even close to as good as it was on LinkedIn. It's still incredibly powerful and still way better than the avenues that most people tend to put stuff on. But you can't care. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. I think that they don't do things personally correct very well. I think they're not very good at really making people want to post stuff on there.
Yeah.
But regardless, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, Snapchat used to be the thing. It's not now. TikTok's been the number one thing for a while. It's continuing to be. Like, Twitter just released Fleets, which are the story version of Twitter now. You're going to always see new things. And if you are one of those people, which a lot of people are, which is like, I just can't keep up, so I'm not going to do anything, you're making a mistake.
Yes,
like,
you are.
it doesn't matter if it's overwhelming to you.
Yeah.
What matters is it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's always gonna, and it's only gonna become more and more and more. And just in Instagram alone, you have 5 different types of things that you can post on a regular basis.
Yep.
Should you do them all? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Can you do them all? Maybe not, because you also have all the other social media things.
Yeah.
But just being overwhelmed and letting that be the thing that makes you post nothing will end up killing you.
Yeah.
Because people are there whether you want to be or not.
I have a friend who, in my like business group, she's in her 60s and she's like, Michaela, I just can't do the reels thing. And I'm like, just do it. Just like put yourself out there and do it. And she did this little, not like a full on dancing thing, but she was like dancing as she was pointing at things. And literally so many people commented because she's trying, you know, like it wasn't the most
willing to
flawless
learn.
thing.
Yeah.
She's willing to learn. She's putting herself out there, and people appreciate that.
There's literally I forget what his name is. It might be Gramps. Might be. There's a grandpa on TikTok that has like 3 million subscribers. And he does like crazy dances. He's like super old. And you can just tell how much fun he's having doing. And like, literally, from what it looks like, he's almost literally the one doing them all, like posting them and everything.
Yeah,
'Cause I don't see anything else in his feed. I
love it.
randomly came across it. And I'm like, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
And like, he's probably not even doing it for a reason. Like, he's probably not even trying
like,
to
I
sell
don't even know
something.
what
He
I'm
just
doing.
is having fun.
Yes, exactly.
But like, have fun. It makes you
exactly.
young.
100%. And again, relationship, when we bring it back to that,
Yep.
being authentic and just like putting yourself out there,
That was
such a great
already
way.
important
Yeah.
leading up to COVID. Now
Yes.
that people aren't allowed to see people in
Yeah,
person,
yeah.
oh my goodness. There's like a psychological need to be
Yes.
connected to not just brands, but other consumers,
Yep.
your peers, everything. So if if your company or your business wasn't already using relationships to push themselves forward, I feel like, man, now is the time.
And I definitely think that during COVID, certain industries could really thrive on the idea of going really like full force into social media on giving people options of things that they might not have done in like fitness, for example.
Yeah.
Had a huge opportunity during COVID
Yep.
to put out a ton of content about different things and different what you could do at home and how to work out at home. Like if you were someone in the fitness realm or a company in that kind of realm or eating healthy or desks that were for at-home setup, there's definitely things that you have to always be paying attention to that
Yep.
if your industry has an incredible opportunity because of something that you sold that was somewhat useful before and then
Yeah.
becomes unbelievably useful,
Yep.
capitalizing that time is so important. Because like the webcam market that basically was dead,
Yeah.
you couldn't get things in stock for months and months and months and months.
Yep.
The ones that capitalized off that, or Zoom, for example, like they always had a pretty decent thing, but now they've been unbelievable this
Yes.
year.
Yes.
And granted, there'll be others that on the opposite side that you really can't sell much. If you're in the travel industry, it's
Yeah.
a tough time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to just kind of be paying attention to like any situation. None of us could control COVID, but when it's here, how can the service that I offer
Yeah.
be valuable during this time? As a video production company, it's like, well, we know that video is important, so how can we help and create more content around why it's important, or how can we educate people themselves? For us, it was like, how can we educate our clients how to actually shoot a lot of their own video and let us edit it for them?
Yep.
Because we couldn't always be there to film with them.
Yep.
And like it's trying, you're always having to adapt no matter what. But when something like this comes along, even though it's rare, there's still times that weird things like this happen. How, instead of sitting around and being like, we're screwed, like what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
It's what is valuable to people in my industry for this time? Because there's something, no matter what you sell,
100%.
there's a way that you have to figure out. And a lot of people jump right away to like, okay, well, I'm just going to sell an online course. Well, great, but you still need to have some attention before you can sell anything.
Yes.
Which is the whole point of creating content in the first place.
Yep.
But if not, it was a great opportunity to just start to post and look at things because the amount of people posting and viewing these things were at an all-time high, obviously, because they're always around their computers and sitting in it.
Yep.
But
Sure.
too many people I think, try to control the stuff that they can. It's like, just look for opportunity.
Yep.
It may be less than it was, but there's a ton of companies now doing unbelievable things that they never would have thought they would be in. And they'll probably continue and make that a massive part of their business.
Yep. 100%.
And that's good.
And even in the next podcast, we're going to talk about creating content, repurposing things. So excited about that.
Yeah.
That future episode as well. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about was, I know it sounds really similar, but this whole people first social media, meaning two-way communication, is really the ticket to boosting any organic post or reach. Because when you engage in the DMs with voice or video, not just text, your content shows up more consistently to them. So it's one of the things where, like, if you ever have somebody where you start following them and then you're DMing them back and forth, and all of a sudden you're like, man, they are everywhere. It's the algorithm. It's the way that they push that person's content in front of you more often. So utilize that. Like, even for me, one of the things, I take walks and I'll just reach out to people that have been engaging. And it's crazy how that literally shoots your engagement up with them. So how, as you, like, for you guys as a business, whether you're a one person shop or you have a small team or a large team, how can you begin to develop that two-way communication with people on social? And even more than to Instagram. I know, like, my brain just tends to go to,
well, a lot of what you do and your people are, that is their main platform for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's super, super important. And it's also, number one, it's easier when I respond to someone via video or like a voice thing than it even is the text in the first place. Like,
So much.
it takes less time.
yes.
And it's also, when they get that, it is so powerful to them that they're like, they legit talked to me or did a video, when ultimately it's actually easier for you.
Yes.
But it's more powerful.
Yes.
And it does good things for the algorithm. But social media and all the things, they want to see that you don't like post and disappear. That's what they want.
Don't post and ghost.
That's why I mean, whether it's the DMs or whether it's just replying back to comments, like the number one thing you need to do all the time is realize that these platforms pay attention to whether you're existing after you post. They don't want, because to them, in an algorithm, a post and ghost and walk away only yells sale to them, like selling.
Further and further apart from
And granted, you'll get to a point where maybe you can't respond to everything. But the amount of people that I'm like, oh, I can't respond to everything, and they have like 4 comments, and I'm like, yes, you could.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have any comments to respond.
Yeah.
Like, when you have millions, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
Like, I understand you can't do everything.
Well, you can delegate.
You can.
Somebody from the team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just so important. The DMs especially is obviously very, very valuable because, they want to see that you're like a real person. They want to see that you're spending more and more time. And when you do things like a video or a voice, it's you've gone an extra effort, an extra step that the average text post didn't.
Yeah.
And they want to reward you for it.
100%.
And that could change too. Like it just changes all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just, if you see something working, you keep doing it for a while, and then eventually it won't. Then you figure out something else.
I'm thinking big picture, but I love when I see like on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, where a big corporation, like a big brand name, like Gillette is one of them that I saw. I wrote like a paper on Gillette's customer service. So like, that's what's coming up right now.
Yeah.
When they like have somebody personally, like obviously they have a team to help them answer things online and everything.
Right.
But when they personally like type out something or they use an emoji and like you can tell it's a real person, it's not a robotic copy and pasted answer. Man, that is like, I love that.
Yes.
And like I never message brands like that for anything, but if I did, to have somebody like in a timely manner respond in real life with an actual solution. I love it.
Good like that. I mean, a lot of companies that do that well.
Yeah.
Like responding to people on
Twitter.
Yeah.
And I think it's tricky for certain companies to think about like how they could release a group of people to be the voice of them on Twitter. Like, how can they keep a consistent brand voice?
Yeah.
It is tricky, but it has to do with, it absolutely is doable. And it's kind of necessary as well if you're a big business and you want to really have a social media impact, to understand like what are the things that we say all the time or that are us, but yet also not micromanaging every little thing that's on there. Because if you micromanage everything, you'll get nothing out at all. But you have to realize that if you have multiple personalities working on content, certain things might look a little different.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah.
And if you at least if you have a schedule and you have delegation of certain things, because it may be that a certain person's like in charge of the DMs during work hours, and there might be someone else. Okay, well, what are the typical things that you do? How do you respond? Let people have their own personalities and do things. It's a great way to do it because that's one of the best ways that you can obviously increase your reach. And if you're new to it, you're not going to have a lot of DMs. We get it.
Yeah.
And so it's something you have to build up. But that's why like social media always has and always will be like just a long-term relationship game. It takes a while.
Exactly. Yeah, the building. I'll give you an example. So there was an author that I love, and I had posted something about one of his books, and I think I even did like an IGTV on it or something. But he responded to me in the DMs with a video of like thanking me for pushing the message forward. And he's got a massive following. This is not like a no-name author. And I was so impressed with that he took the time. And it was a video. And I even thought, oh gosh, when I'm an author, I'm totally doing that. But also, I literally went on Amazon that day and bought all the rest of his books.
Nice.
But that's just one example of building that trust. Like, he's now a person to me. All of us being before,
he's not above that.
Yeah, before he was just an author that I just looked up to, and then now he's a person.
Yep.
And
he didn't once tell you to buy books.
Not
and then
once.
that's all you did.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what people do.
Yeah, and then you build a relationship from there. Like him and I have talked. He was just on my podcast. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy how you can build relationships online in such an authentic way by even just that two-way communication.
Yep. I think people really know when a person is really trying to help and really trying to care, and it's your overall like lifespan legacy of. I mean, Gary Vee is just such an unbelievable example of like a person that just nonstop gives, and preaches what he says of like giving, and he rarely, like every once in a while he'll release a book or a shoe or something, and of course we'll tell people about it, but he's just, you can't find content anywhere that is not what he always is talking about, which is so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's about actually believing in what you're talking about as well, that author probably does that with a lot of people.
He does.
And that's a great idea.
It's literally,
But he's consistent
Yep.
at just being that type of person, which is giving more value and building relationships and building trust. Does he know that probably sells him a lot of books?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay.
Yeah.
I'd still rather someone do that, knowing that ultimately they want me to buy their book, than to be like, hey, also, if you haven't yet bought my book, buy my book.
Yeah.
I'd
And
rather.
as the author, how much more fun is it to engage
Yeah.
with people who love your stuff
sure.
than to try to just push out ad, you know?
Yeah. And it's just so much easier
It's
too.
fulfilling.
Like, especially someone that puts out content and you have a lot of people engaging with you about the content you're putting out. It should be so easy for you to engage in conversation.
Yeah.
Because they're commenting on the stuff that you put out.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's your stuff.
That it's just easy. It should be something you probably are passionate about what you're talking about in the first place. That's why you put the piece of content out.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah. Any like specific examples or things that you can think of to give people, like maybe try this or do this other than what we've said?
I mean, a lot of times when we are working with clients that might have, so there are certain clients that it's difficult for them to put out a certain amount of content, even from like a privacy standpoint or certain things.
Yeah.
But there is certain things that people can put out that take no time whatsoever, like employee spotlight stuff or a daily did you know that has to do with their industry. Something that like is simple.
Yeah.
People overestimate or underestimate how much they know
Yep.
in an industry
Yep.
and that nobody else knows about.
Yes.
That is not selling, it's educating. And it does two things. Number one, it helps people educate why maybe your prices are what they even are without saying this is why our prices are what they are. It also helps them to see how little they know and why they need you.
Yep.
Because the more you put out that blows people's mind, that they're like, I would have never thought about that, the more they realize I need help in this
Yeah.
rather than I can do this myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like if you're a dentist, you could be putting out nonstop videos, not with even clients, but like how does, it sounds gross, but like how does a root canal work? How does an actual thing work? And what does that little brush that hits you in the teeth when you're getting your teeth cleaned, what does it actually look like? What is it doing compared to, like just
So
dumb
simple.
things that
Requires an iPhone.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like we're a video production company, but I tell people all the time, like it's not, you don't pay us, even clients now, like we don't want people to pay us because of the video quality we can produce. What we help people with more than anything is just trying to get them to understand stuff that they can create.
Yeah.
And we want to educate people on how to create stuff themselves because you need to put out a lot of content.
Yep.
Our
Yep.
clients who pick up their phone and literally like on their walk into work, just do a little video showing their face.
Yep.
I feel like they do so well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because people like that authentic thing. But there's just, I think in any industry, there are every single time someone walks in, if you're a brick and mortar place, and every time someone walks in and asks you a question, you should jot that question down. And you should jot every question down and every single thing that you respond to someone with and make pieces of random content about it. Because every time someone asks you a question, there's probably a million other people that have that same question.
Yep.
Yes.
Especially when you're in a weird industry.
Yeah.
Like that, like a dentist, not that they're weird, but like an industry that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah.
Other
Yeah.
than they get their teeth cleaned.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do a video on why should you get your teeth cleaned every 6 months? Or why, like, I don't know. There might be other videos that exist like that, but you have an opportunity to keep just producing more and more things so that when people search for anything regarding your industry, you should hopefully in some platform somewhere answer the question they're asking.
Yes.
And it's not that hard to do because you know what you're talking about in your industry.
Yeah.
You just need to actually do it.
And even that one thing, I mean, as we're talking about a dentist, I'm thinking about like reels that you could do about like why you shouldn't be afraid to go to the dentist and, you know, like just different things that you can really play with and have fun with in any industry at all. So that's awesome. I really think that teams should listen to this podcast and then have a meeting and just throw like a big whiteboard meeting where you just throw out what are all the questions that we get all the time? What are fears that people have? What are objections that they have? And then speak to all of those things in your content. And
don't be afraid to tell people how to do something that you actually sell. It's very powerful.
Yep.
Like people are so hesitant to obviously want to, if you're a haircutting place during COVID and you could not let people come in to get their haircut. You should have been putting videos out on how to cut your own hair using a mirror in reverse or something because what it does is build trust that when they got to do their hair themselves because you helped them, they're going to want to come back to you when you're open again.
Yeah.
Most people, sure, there are people that now might cut their hair forever because they didn't realize it was easy. I mean, I always cut my own hair. But the whole point is most people won't.
Yeah.
Most people still just don't want to do it. So if you're an auto body shop or something that constantly, we have clients do this all the time where we'll like educate people on how to change their own spark plug, check their own tire pressure, do the things that that isn't really what makes them their bread and butter money anyway. You're going to get them to come when the people really don't know how to do something. But it builds this trust that like they could have made money on me. They could have put out the ad that said, you need to change your spark plug, come in and we're offering a $19.99 spark plug.
Right.
Or they could be like, here's how to not spend money with us and change your spark plug yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need to come here.
Yeah.
And
Trust.
that's way more trust.
Yes. Yeah.
And everyone can do that in any industry.
Yep.
But people don't want to because they're too afraid of that video is going to go so viral that no one's ever going to come to their place. If that video goes viral, you're going to explode.
Yeah. 100%.
Not the opposite.
Yeah. It's so true. The next thing that I think is really important going into social for 2021 is live everything, if possible. So live social media has really soared. And I know it's one of those things where I've been trying to do it more often, and even I get nervous whenever I go live, but really it helps your engagement. And it's kind of the new norm too for a lot of people right now. So I wanted to give a couple of different ideas for just what maybe to do when you go live. It could be Q&A sessions. Maybe like one of the things I do is answering your DMs. What are some common questions that you get? Or literally have like screenshot somebody's question in the DM, X out their face, but then answer the question in a live kind of format. You can do launches, different announcements, things that you got going on, take people behind the scenes. I think this is one of the best things.
That's the best.
And the easiest.
So easy.
Yeah.
So easy.
Everybody wants to see that.
100%. Isn't that funny how people are?
Yeah.
They just want.
Like, show me the background of that.
Exactly. Yeah. They want to be like a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
So whatever your business is, somehow doing some behind the scenes stuff, I think is really great.
And some industries we also can't do this kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand that like we understand that in certain, if you're a bank, you probably can't do a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
Go back to the vault.
Like you can't.
Let me show you the passwords.
There might be other things obviously that you can do, but
100%. Yeah.
that's important to obviously state too.
Yeah, for sure. Interviews, collaborations, takeovers. Collaborations right now are, I think, so important to partner up with other businesses, highlight other people, whether even if it's like not even in your industry but it's highlight local people.
Yep.
Because that builds, again, relationships, trust, that you're willing to use your platform to highlight other people.
Yep.
Says a lot about you.
Yep.
So takeovers, and then also to just like experiment with content. Like this is your time, go live and I don't know, try new things and see how people react to them. Can you guys think of anything else?
Here's what I'd say about live that I think is important. I think live is really good if you're really good live. The tricky thing about live is most people shouldn't go live.
Yeah.
Not because of a certain person or whatever, but I think live you do need to have a very good game plan of what you're about to do because you don't get to do it over if you do something really stupid. And not that you should overthink live, but at the same time, depending on the industry and depending on what you're planning on do, like, you're good with your live stuff, but you have a game plan. You're going to answer DMs or whatever. You're going to go ready and do it. You're going to answer them, and then you're going to be done with live.
Yes.
And that's the other thing is when you think about live, don't think about it that it has to be an hour-long live stream.
Oh, no.
Let it be because the point of live is not just that you're live, it's that it puts you at the front of the list in these platforms, up on the Instagram and all these things, because they're excited that you went live.
Yes.
So it's not even about what you do necessarily on live. It's about that the more you go live, the more that the platform likes to show people that you exist.
Yep.
And then especially on Instagram, the live is just reviewable as like a story. So it's, or a feed, or however you want to do it. But so it's more of just getting your engagement up there, that it can be a 5-minute live stream. It can be an hour live stream. But because it is live, if you're going to do a consistent, every Friday we're going to go live, or really probably you're going to want to put more thought into what you're going to do in that time,
for sure,
rather than where you have editability in content.
Yes.
Because if you're going to hop on, the minute you hop on, you're live, and then it's reviewable. You're going to hop on immediately and have nobody watching, but you still need to start your content right away.
Yep.
Because when people watch it back and you don't talk for 3 minutes because you're waiting for people to hop on, people will leave.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's what's tricky. Because you're also, when you start, you're talking to nobody.
Yep.
But you know that you're going to get people watching it back after. But yet, if you didn't talk to nobody at the very beginning, that's like most live streams I start. I'm like, I'm going to start talking right away because I know that most people don't like when you would join a live stream and no one talked for the playback.
Yep. Well,
but it puts you at the front of the list.
Yes.
And it keeps showing the platform that you are there.
Yep, 100%. And this is actually what I do, a little trick. So when I go live on Instagram, I don't actually put it. You can, at the end when you're done, it says like put to IGTV or share save this video. So I save the video in there. I edit a little bit of it. I put it into subtitles so that I have my, captions, and then I put it on my feed.
So you cut out like the beginning.
I do.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's like one way too that you can cut.
And we'll talk about that in the next episode about repurposing content. Because that's the other great thing about live is it should be the platform that gives you whatever. If you're going to answer 5 Q&As, that's a live piece is content 1 and 5 other content pieces and maybe 15 others from there that are it gives you what we'll talk about in the next episode, pillar content, to be able to do more with.
Yes.
And it's a great way that makes you have to show up more, which is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So really, I think, and this is something that I've been hearing a lot, and you can disagree with me if you want to, but I've been hearing that community over content is really super important. And you're going to use your content to build community. But right now, one of the most important things that you can do on your social going into 2021, start now, is just focus on community, relationship building, because that's what the world is craving.
Yep.
And so when you show up in that space and you give value to people and build relationship, you have that those two parts, it's going to set you apart.
Yep. No, I think it's incredibly, incredibly important. And I think that you're naturally, when you have a really big audience, you naturally try to start an online community more, you're going to see like smaller numbers. So a lot of people get like thrown off by that because they're expecting to have this. But the community, the people that listen closely to all your content, the people that pay attention are your biggest advocates and the ones that actually would make you the most sales of something you even are trying to sell. That it's really valuable though. Because people want to, I just recently started doing this with my own personal stuff of like challenging people with 30-day challenges of different things and just try to build it because people love how active you are in the community. And that's why the perk of those communities needs to be that you don't create a community and then let it just run and don't ever show up. People, the value needs to be Michaela's in this community more than any other way. And some people might charge for a community, some don't. I recommend not charging at the beginning because you need to build one first. But at the same time, the access to you and the uniqueness of the community is super important because it allows you, when you do eventually build a community and over the course of years, you eventually decide to sell something or whatever, now you very naturally have a community that is passionate about what you're doing.
100%.
And it's really, really good to do.
Yeah.
And I still think, and that's why Facebook, I think the biggest reason Facebook still has as many eyeballs as they have, and they will for a long time, is no one is better at groups and communities than Facebook because they're better at their platform of how it exists. Facebook groups, Facebook pages, and all that. Groups more than anything, but no one else is even close. No one.
It's true.
Instagram doesn't have that type of community that you can sure you can have a DM group. Like it's not an efficient way to do things. Twitter doesn't exist in that at all for the way that they do things. TikTok isn't even trying to do that kind of thing. So there are still most groups that you find
Yes.
still push you to Facebook.
I know.
And that's why they're dominating, because there are groups that have been existing for years and years in there with thousands and thousands of members. And I'm a part of tons of them. One's for my car, one's for certain cameras I use, for certain mountain biking trails. Like they're so valuable.
Yes. Yeah. They
And
really.
and community is so important now, like you said, because people aren't always together as much.
Yep.
But it's great. It's a great thing to do. It's a great point.
Anything else you guys want to mention about relationships and anything about social media going into 2021?
I think it's going to keep changing.
Yep.
And every single time that something new comes out, you should at least just pay attention to it.
Yeah.
You should pay attention to the fact that something's in the top 10 of a app store on Apple or Android platform, because things are going to keep coming out. Things are going to keep changing. You should try them. You should figure out how you can storytell with them, even if you don't want to.
Yep.
You aren't also going to be able to do everything if you're a tiny person. We have to be realistic about that.
Yeah.
So it's important to really understand where your target market is. And just an FYI, your target market is not where you like to be the best, because you may not be the target market of the company that you do social media for. Don't forget that. I think that's I think a lot of companies hire a social media person because they're good at it, but it doesn't mean that that's where they need to be.
Yeah.
And so it's important to realize where the actual target market is. And if that's not where you spend all your time, you're probably going to need to, if that's your job, to learn what it is.
Yeah.
Because Facebook is still an incredibly, incredibly powerful platform for most businesses. But just because you like Instagram and your people are on it doesn't mean that if you were doing social media for someone else,
It's like B2B.
that you should just be in Instagram.
Right.
And that's the mistake I think a lot of people make, is they say, okay, well, I'm just going to focus on Instagram because I that's the one I'm best at. Well, but maybe your people aren't there. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
So really understanding that, and then dive into the one that your target market is most. And if you don't know your target market or you don't know where your target market is, then go alongside of a company or something that can help you understand that, or just pay attention to what's happening in there.
Yep.
But start with the one that's your best target market,
Yeah.
figure out how to get better and better. And as you start to build a schedule and can do it more often, start to go into other avenues and explore different ones.
Yep, 100%.
But realize that there's potential in anything, because there is where your target market is might be a certain place, but your target market or 10 years down the road might be in this platform, and eventually they're going to be in the one you need. And if you plan on staying in business more than 20 days, you should try to be in more, because if your target market is 50, well, 35-year-olds eventually become 50. And if your target market's 30, 18-year-olds eventually become that too. And it's a long-term game. So getting them and building that trust for 10 years before they even be a client, they can end up being the biggest client you ever have. Because for years you were in TikTok when it made no sense for you to be in TikTok.
Good point.
But it's time, it's effort, and it's being okay with doing things that don't feel like they make a lot of sense right this second. And a lot of companies, unfortunately, don't have the patience to let people do it, which is unfortunate. Because the ones that are creating TikTok content that make no sense and they're building audiences, one day it'll make a lot of sense.
So true.
So that's what I would say too, as big inspiration to if you're a boss or if you're a person that has like a social media team, let them explore some different options and don't be so quick to judge, but also learning it as much as you can yourself is unbelievably valuable, because it's impossible for you to tell whether they're even doing a good job if you don't know it yourself. Like the more that you can learn, and we try to do this with all our business owners, even if they're not the ones posting it, you should know a little bit about social media. You should know how to post, how to run ads. You should know target markets, because then when you hire someone, you know if they know what they're doing. Because social media is one of those things most people don't know. And so what happens is they hire the wrong people 90% of the time in social media, because they just figure they know more than I do, so they'll do a great job.
They're young. They know social media.
It's not that simple.
It's really not.
So understanding it the best you can as the leader at the top, regardless whether you're posting, makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
For sure. Well, hopefully you guys found this valuable. We would love to hear like what of this is something that, number one, was like an aha moment, and then what are you going to implement right away? I would love to hear that. That'd be awesome. So thank you for spending time with us today. And I'm really excited about the next episode.
Yep.
So if you liked this and you want to go further and learn a little bit more about how to create content and then how to repurpose content, definitely check out the next episode.
Thanks for watching as always.
See you guys.